fine. Friday.
I was following up people.
Right. Excited with expectation.
Hey guys, hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Long time no see.
I open LinkedIn. There's your face.
How come?
No, it's Sonia. She put an article about the teachers. So like, whoa, look at her. Yeah,
Great.
I'm Leslie. Yeah.
I'm going to share also a link that Leslie actually was sharing today. I have a couple of things to share with you guys. Yeah. About teachers in the USA as well. Right. Okay. So, well, we're going to talk about something that is actually, maybe you've had some experience, maybe you haven't, but very interesting topic with or how children with dyslexia learn second languages. And the subject comes because of some parents having approached us with kids that have dyslexia. Yeah, so we were asked about our opinion, what to do and what we recommended for these kids. Yeah, so have you ever had students with dyslexia? Have you ever taught students with dyslexia? No, no one, never.
No.
Okay. Well, okay. What do you know about it? Do you have some facts? Do you know what is it?
A little bit, Red Miller. I think it's students that they see words backwards. Am I correct?
Well, they confuse sometimes. They confuse the order of letters. Yeah, so sometimes they struggle with reading and writing because sometimes they mix letters. So instead of, for instance, I don't know, N, they can write NA. Instead of AN, they can write NA. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of that. So Mark, hi, hello to you as well. Hi. Any?
Yeah, I just found out my 11 o'clock class had been cancelled. So.
Okay, so do you have any experience with teaching children or students with dyslexia?
No, I can't say that I have actually. I mean, it must be a bit complicated, really. I mean, occasionally you can suspect with something, but no, I haven't.
Right.
Have you? I imagine you have.
Me personally,
yeah.
we have had a teacher with dyslexia, and honestly, if she hasn't told me, I wouldn't notice because how do you notice? I mean, you don't. You just don't. And she was at least a little bit worried whether she would be up to standards, and turned out she was absolutely brilliant. So I told her, I mean, we with the approach that we take, it should be perfectly fine. So turns out that our approach was no issue with her at all. In any case, students with dyslexia, just a little bit of facts, around between 5 and 10% in Spain, between 5 and 10% of the kids have dyslexia. So if experts say that in a class of 25, it is very likely that we have 1 or 2 kids with dyslexia. Okay, now with or without dyslexia, I think that we should create a very safe environment for kids to learn in a natural way. Yeah, so no matter whether they have that difficulty or not, it is our duty to create a space where that won't be a problem. So what do you think? How can we do that, or what can we do and what we should avoid doing? What do you think? Anyone?
I would make some suggestions.
Okay.
I feel like now that you bring up the topic of dyslexia, I feel like worldwide it would be like a new project, like a new type of audience. You know, I feel like as teachers we're always transferring information from generation to generation, and I feel like the same way we see the stereotyping around the world, I feel like some kids people are neglected by their deficiency, and I feel like perhaps Xfinity might have an opportunity to innovating a new methodology of teaching kids with special needs, I would say, because it is a need. And I feel like some parents feel rejected socially because of these kids, because of their kids. And I feel like I'm not a mother, but I would say I would like an entity to kind of give me that opportunity, that light where I can say, okay, I feel like there's a community of teachers that are actually focusing on these specific needs. Because what's the difference between Xfinity and other academies? Let's say in Spain, let's focus only in Spain. What's the difference, right? Like what's special about Xfinity partners or Xfinity teachers? Well, we know that Xfinity has a lot of type of English teaching, right? Like from medical terminology to general English, right? I don't want to go through the whole list, but how can we innovate now? Maybe perhaps partnering with big, associations that are focused on supplying these type of needs. So I think it would be a good way for all teachers, if they agree, right, to kind of create a method of teaching for kids, not only with dyslexia, but other kids that have learning problems, have linguistic, problems as well. The difficulty of speaking, pronouncing specific words. I feel
That,
like it's
that's
something
exactly,
great.
yeah, that's exactly why we're talking about it. That's exactly why we talk about it, because the fact that it's very interesting, the fact that the majority of you, pretty much none of you, have noticed that. And I say that it must have happened. You must have had kids between 10 and 5 and 10% of the students will have it. But you say here that you haven't experienced it, which is
I
very,
I
yeah,
have, Fred
you
Miller.
have, you
Yeah,
have,
for example,
yeah.
my brother, actually two of my siblings. One of them had epilepsy, but I thank God she's healed on September. She was diagnosed with no more epilepsy, but she had a difficulty learning because she would have like silent spasms at the time in class. So she was kind of behind. I'm talking about US, right? This happened in the US. And we didn't know why she was having trouble with learning and remembering things, and it was because of the epilepsy. We didn't know she had it until she had to be diagnosed with it. And then my brother, the linguistic part, the part where he had difficulty pronouncing the words, so those were two things that I experienced.
Exactly.
So I feel
I
like
want
it's good.
that's where I would like you to reflect, yeah, in a minute. But let's hear Emma first. Yeah, Emma.
Oh, hello. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, I actually teach two French boys on a weekly basis. They're brothers, and one is heavily dyslexic, and one is not at all. And my father's actually dyslexic as well, so I've sort of experienced or witnessed it through my life. And it's just really interesting because when you're teaching, they just see the letters all mixed up. So when you're asking them to do reading exercises, the boy with the dyslexia, he really can't read that well at all. So you have to use some different ways of approaching, obviously, the learning. So through images, his listening is very good, better than his brother. So it's just using the materials, or we need materials perhaps to focus more on learning without having necessarily to read the words on a page.
Here, you're mentioning a very important point, but I will make a distinction once again, and I'll insist on that. Who does the reading? because these guys, and we can talk about the ones that have the being diagnosed with dyslexia, but the rest as well. Yeah, I can argue that it's not that they shouldn't be read to. I think that we can read to them. They have no problem whatsoever understanding. They have no problem whatsoever. They can engage in a reading. But the problem comes when we ask students to do something before time. Yeah, being it a student that has or doesn't have dyslexia. I think I just want to make you reflect on this. Yeah, every time we make students do something before time, then we make it difficult for students. But you guys mentioned something very interesting, all of you. Yeah, so the first thing is that let's remember again how people learn, because the problems for people with dyslexia start when they have to face reading and writing, because the school system base their teaching and learning process on reading and writing. Yeah, that's where these students can start struggling. Okay, but so what experts recommend in the first place is to wait with this, to wait and to remember that the problem comes with particular practices, and to change these practices. So practice number one that will hinder and that will be problematic is making them do something before time. But this is not valid just for kids with dyslexia. This is valid for everyone. Yeah, every kid that is not engaged in something interesting will will show boredom. Every kid who is requested to read before time will react in a way that you know, they can misbehave, or they can just switch off. So the problem is how our approach should meet any need. Yeah, I'm not talking about here how we can cope with kids with specific needs, but kids with all needs or any need. This is it. Either we create something, and here we are doing it. Either we create something that includes all the kids with all the variety of differences that they might have, or we're not going to be proud of what we're doing. Yeah, so the approach has to be what type of teaching we offer, what type of teaching do we offer to every kid, without differentiating between kids with dyslexia, kids without it. Yeah, this is it. And since you guys mentioned pronunciation, that is a very important thing, actually, because if we think of the sequence of learning, first we have to listen, then we have to imitate, then we start producing, yeah, some language, then we can start reading, then we write. But actually learning a language happens in between the first two stages. Learning happens in between listening and imitating. Actually, I forgot understanding, so it would be listening, imitating, understanding, producing language, speaking, then reading, then writing. But when people learn, learning happens between listening and imitating. This is it. So the first and most important thing that as teachers we have to achieve is our students to have very good pronunciation. So this is your objective number one. Your student pronunciation will be determinant whether they afterwards will acquire good communicative skills, verbal and written. This is it. This is the key element, pronunciation, because pronunciation problems directly affect writing, directly affect reading. Georgina, you want to say something? No?
No, I just speak out loud. Don't worry. I answer myself. No worries.
Okay, and what was the question that you answered?
Oh, you said pronunciation directly affects, and I said communication. But then you said
Communication, yeah.
reading and
Pronunciation,
writing.
exactly. So pronunciation, if we forget about it, then we're going to, yeah, the rest of the elements won't be fully acquired. So pronunciation happens between listening and imitating. That's it. Whether they understand or not is something that we will understand later. I mean, take a kid, a little kid that is learning to speak. Yeah. So they first listen, then they imitate, and sometimes they imitate it. They don't know what they are imitating. They don't know it, but sometimes they then, after a while, they say a word, we react to it in a way that it's coherent, and they understand that, okay, so I did right. So for instance, I as a very small kid learning to speak, they imitate water, 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 and then eventually when they say water, then they receive a glass of water, therefore they understand that they've done something right, so that they receive water. Yeah. So there is, but of course, if they mispronounce water, they won't receive water. You see, so this is it with native speakers, with native kids. Of course, that will come natural. So and we have to provoke it in learners as well. That's it. They have to learn to imitate, and we have to work on their pronunciation at that stage. Okay, because let's remember again, where do kids with dyslexia, for instance, struggle? With what elements do they struggle? Emma, maybe from your experience, with what instructions of yours do they struggle?
I think mainly the reading. If I ask them to read something,
Yeah.
It's very slow, and I mean, often, as I say, the words on the page, he will say something completely different, completely intelligible. So I mean, that's the main way. And I'm trying to remember, somebody to tell me about how to teach people with dyslexia, and it's about now I can't remember, but it's a kind of a different way of approaching the text. And anyway, I'll try and remember and figure it out and come back to you on that. But
No,
yeah.
It's usually through a lot of visual materials and underneath the word written, so that it sticks. Yeah, that's
Right.
that's usually the approach. But before
Yeah.
that, experts recommend a lot of work on raising the general speaking level. They very much insist on that, and how important it is, not only for these kids with dyslexia, for any kid, yeah, to avoid possible problems at school in any subject that is taught in English. Yeah. So the first objective has to be to raise language awareness, speaking, to increase speaking, to work on pronunciation. Yeah, because where they will start struggling is when we ask them, for instance, to remember lists. There they are going to have it difficult. When we, for instance, if language is taught from the point of view of lists of words that they have to remember, we kill them. Yeah. So as soon as you put on the table, you have to remember the days of the week, the months of the year, then all the kitchen utensils and the objects of the room. This type of approach is literally putting, a lot of pressure and a lot of difficulty, because they understand that they have to, how else but to try to memorize written text. And there is when they will struggle a lot. Yeah. And there is where we will try to, in an attempt to work on their written correction, we are putting, we are interfering with the pronunciation, especially I'm talking about when a child is learning a second language. And interfering with pronunciation is absolutely, it's a disaster. So first is making sure that we raise the linguistic level, that they have a very good pronunciation, and then little by little we show them patterns, and they understand the patterns behind writing the words in English. Yeah, this is it. Of course, they recommend a lot of visual material, but a lot of TPR, yeah, total physical response. But above all is remembering that language is something live, that they don't have listening difficulties, that they don't have difficulties understanding. And again, another practice that will be absolutely detrimental is when we start translating, because we're signaling the kid that now you have to remember equivalences, the equivalence between this and that, this and that. So instead of creating or allowing them to recreate the structure of the new language in a natural way, we tell them now, study this, study equivalencies or learn equivalencies. So no translating for them. It is making it even more difficult. Basically, the good thing is that we have created a methodology, a method where these kids don't struggle, neither the kids with dyslexia or without, if we remember that we don't have to make them do things before time. Yeah, this is the golden rule for you guys. Yeah, so work a lot on pronunciation and speaking competences. The rest will be a consequence and very or much easier to overcome, despite the difficulty, than if we start the other way around with writing and then trying to through writing correct pronunciation. Forget about it. It won't happen. It's not natural. Okay, so any comment or question from you? What can we tell these parents? Imagine now that you're talking to a parent that has a kid with dyslexia. So what can we tell them? A message to the parents.
I suppose if you can just focus on the speaking side, producing the oral language, that we're not going to be just looking at reading grammar in a book, that it'll be interactive, participative, and I suppose it's a bit like it would be for blind people learning English, I mean, I always wondered whether people get a bit distracted. So that one of the reasons that a lot of Spanish people have bad spelling. I mean, I've noticed this with my son learning French. Okay, when he reads the words in French, he doesn't read them properly. He reads some kind of fake pronunciation as if a Spanish person thought the words were Spanish words, So, and when I tell him that's right, he just refuses to listen. So, the right sounds. So I think this is what people do, and maybe just not reading, could, if it is oral, it could help these kids lose their fear of speaking, maybe that they have a fear, related to reading. And of course, speaking English isn't just reading, obviously.
No,
it's making
exactly.
the language. I think the thing with the translating as well is vital thing. I always say this to people. I had a student the other day. She wasn't dyslexic, but she was speaking a lot of Spanish, and I'm saying, you just got to stop this. It's like it's like thinking in pesetas. It's pointless. It's not worth thinking in Spanish. There are so many differences. English has a different logic to Spanish. English uses prepositions a different way to Spanish. English uses verb tenses a different way to Spanish. English has a different word order to Spanish. Maybe one might seem more logical than the other, or vice versa. But I mean, you've just got to accept that they're different. They work a different way. You don't try and ride a bike as if it were a car. You know, you can do that. So that's it. I think concentrating on speaking and not worrying about reading words, you know, does it really matter so much if you can't, if the kid is going to get frustrated about reading and writing, then he's not going to want to do anything. So if you just don't do any reading and writing, you do the reading and writing as a teacher and get him or her to do the speaking, you know, and the listening.
Absolutely. I think that the good approach is, and a call here to all the teacher, every single teacher that is in this meeting and outside, a call that I will make, then sure that it reaches people. Guys, use only English, yeah. So the problem in general is a shared problem with people with that may have dyslexia and not, yeah. It is a shared problem that we forget, or at school it is forgotten, that language learning or language acquisition starts in the area between listening and imitating. There is where it starts, and any attempt to take a shortcut hinders learning. The shortcut might seem to be that, okay, so if you write and read and prepare for written tests, we're taking the shortcut. Turns out it's completely the opposite. We're just making it even harder for anyone to learn a language and to acquire it right.
Radmila, I'll tell you a really interesting thing. I was talking to a student the other day, and he, like me, had spent his Erasmus year in Italy. And we were talking about this thing that in Italy, exams are oral.
Yeah.
All the exams are oral. And he said this thing to me. He said, because of this, Italians are much better at speaking, at public speaking, than Spanish people.
Of course they are.
In Italian, they're less shy, they're less nervous. And I thought, wow, I'd never thought of that. But yeah, it's true. Because they have this habit, because most of them do go to university, and they have to do this. They have to be able to speak. And I think it's something that's being lost in a lot of schools, even people in their own language. It's true here, and it's true in Britain, that a lot of people aren't very good at speaking in public. They need to do that more. And I think in English we can, you know, it's an important thing that we have to work. A lot of people, again, as we've said before in these talks, you know, schools, classes are obsessed with grammar. And even in the lengua classes at school, you know, the lengua classes at school are so much more boring than my English classes were at my school, because we didn't learn all that grammar.
It's true. It's very true. It's very true.
It's important. Yeah, we need a base or whatever, but there are other things. And we learned at school, and I'm sure all the native speakers here, in English lessons at school, we learned creative writing, speaking. I remember standing up in front of the class, we had to prepare a speech, and often people don't do that here. You know, occasionally they do it, but not so much, not even in Spanish.
It's very true, Mark. This is the line, and this is it's absolutely true. We have this situation with lengua and with English and so on, as you say. But you guys, the native speakers, have had something that is very, very, very important, and I want to make a call for all the teachers to do it with second language acquisition. Yeah, no one ever interfered in between your listening and imitating process. On the contrary, you were encouraged to do more and more so. Yeah. And you learn to speak a language, your first language. All I say is, let's do that in second language acquisition. Exactly that. And afterwards, if we set the basis that way, with this order, and then we're worried of fostering speaking and pronunciation, the right pronunciation and speaking, then the rest will follow, and it will be much easier for everyone. Yeah, so here is a matter of creating a safe place, a safe learning environment for every single student. And you will see that if we do it that way, if we take this approach, and if we set a solid basis that includes listening, imitating, pronunciation, understanding in this order, speaking, eventually reading and writing, all our students, all of them, with or without difficulties, will thrive. All of them. Yeah. So this is it. You can't rush a process, and you can't make a student execute something before time. Yeah. We have all the means, all the media, every single element to achieve it. And it's just a matter of remembering to do so. Yeah. And we'll get there. We'll achieve it.